All right guys, welcome back to the channel. So last week I did a review on the Ultraview button, and the number one question that I got asked in the comments and on social media is which release is better, the Ultraview button or the Stan Onnex. Now I did reviews on both of these videos and I will link them in the description below so you can check out the individual reviews on these releases. But I'm just gonna kind of do a quick comparison and which areas I think each release excels and which one I'm gonna take in the woods and why this year. So the first thing we got to touch on is price, is how much do these releases cost you? And these are two of the most expensive thumb button releases on the market. So they cost a pretty good chunk of change. So the Stan Onnex, this release right here, this is the aluminum version, costs $279. They also make a version where the body of this release is made of brass, so it's the heavy metal version, and that one costs $300. So they're not cheap releases by any means. And then Ultraview one-upped them and came out with their stainless steel version, the heavy version of the Ultraview button, and this thing costs a whopping $350, and their aluminum version of this release costs only $300. So I say only $300. These are probably two of, if not the two most expensive thumb barrels on the market. So what do you get when you spend that kind of money on these releases? Well, the Ultraview release, this is what you get. This is how it comes. And the only other thing that comes in the box with this, besides an instruction manual, is an Allen key. So you don't have a lot of accessories. If you want to turn this into a 4-finger, you need to go buy the 4-finger attachment. If you want to run a different barrel on this, you have to go buy different barrel attachments. And the price can really stack up really fast with this Ultraview button. Now, when you buy the Stan Onnex release, on the other hand, they actually come with all the accessories that you need for this release to really customize it and make it your own. It comes with a 3rd-finger attachment, but in the box, they have a 4th-finger attachment, so you can make this into a 4-finger release, so no extra cost to you. If you don't like the length on this thumb barrel post, it comes with a smaller thumb barrel post, so you can change the length of your thumb barrel post, comes in the packaging. If you don't like a small thumb barrel like this and you want a bigger one, it comes with a bigger thumb barrel. So Stan comes with a lot of stuff that makes their release really customizable to the way that you want to shoot it without having to spend any extra money. You're already spending $300 on a release like this. Do you really want to go buy all the other accessories to try to make it a 4-finger or try to run a smaller thumb barrel? With the Stan Onnex, you don't have to make that decision. Whereas the Ultraview release, you either shoot it the way it comes or you drop some more coin and change it. All right, so let's go over the fit, finish, and ergonomics of these releases. We'll start with the Ultraview button again. The Cerakoting and the coating that they have on these releases, I really, really like it. It has a matte finish to it, which I think just looks cool, but the matte finish gives it a little bit of texture so the release fits in your hand. It's got a little grit to it, but it's not abrasive. When it comes to the ergonomics and the way this release fits, it just feels like it was made for my hand. So for the release itself, the thing that I think makes these releases feel so good in your hand is the actual finger bed itself. The finger bed itself, is the flat part, is very wide. And the ridges where it comes up from the edge of the release onto the finger bed is a much shorter radius. So it's not as, it doesn't have as much roll to it as other releases. And what that does is it really makes the release fit well in between the knuckles of your hands. I don't feel like I can get too deep in this release because if I do, it just feels really wrong. So it's almost an immediate correction if I've gone too deep in the release, if I'm gripping the release too much and not as much as just holding on. And when you're at full draw, it is locked in to that position in your fingers. So the ergonomics and the actual way this thing fits in my hand, it just feels so damn good. The Stan Onnex release doesn't feel bad. It just doesn't feel as comfortable as the Ultraview button in my hand. So this is all based off of, especially this part, is how these feel in my hand. Like when they tell you to go to a bow shop and shoot a bunch of different manufacturer of bows, because one of them might feel better for you, and if you feel better shooting it, you're gonna shoot it more, and if you shoot it more, you're gonna shoot better. Same thing with releases. You're holding the bow with one hand, you're holding your release with the other, so you have to like what you're shooting. You have to like the feel of what you're holding. The Onnex it wasn't not that release. They do have it is a pretty wide release, which I like because it's easy to get into the groove of your hand. The flat part on the finger bed, unlike the Ultraview, the Stan Onnex has a much more rounded surface here, and it makes the actual bed for your fingers a little more narrow. And I feel like with that curved part, there is a point where I can get too deep into the release just because of that. And especially when I'm getting tired and I'm really gripping onto my release, I feel like I can really get that into my fingers almost too far. So the other thing that I don't like about the way this stand feels in my hand, again, it's not bad, it's just I don't like the way it feels, is the pointer finger and the middle finger is on the release body itself, and they are the same size. The third finger for the ring finger is smaller, and then when you put the forefinger attachment on here, your pinky attachment is even smaller yet. And the release just feels like the deeper I get it into my hand, I'm getting it too far in, and I'm starting to wrap on it too much, and I'm really starting to get too deep in the release. Feels comfortable. There's nothing wrong with the feel, but the Ultraview release is just the same width all the way across. So from my pointer all the way down to my ring finger, it just feels really comfortable in my hand, and it's where it needs to be. So let's move on to the thumb barrels of these releases, because these are both thumb activated triggers. There is some difference in the barrels and the adjustment of these barrels. Both of them have a really good job of having a lot of throw. So the Ultraview, you can loosen this adjustment screw here. You can really extend this barrel out. You can move it backwards, forwards. Pretty much the range that you're limited to is running into the cocking mechanism and running into the release body. And the barrel itself is not center drilled, it is drilled off to the side. So when you loosen this, you have quite a bit of throw on the barrel as well. If you're someone who shoots a Carter Wise choice, same kind of barrel system. So you can really adjust that barrel to fit into your thumb where you want it to. Ultraview has always made like these plastic 3D pieces that have had some really cool designs. I mean, they're called funky pegs, but now with the button, they're making them out of this machined aluminum, and it's got a really good feel to it. The barrel itself is a little concaved, and the ridges on it, instead of being knurling, which pretty much every release manufacturer does, they have these grooves cut into it. Now these grooves, I was kind of hesitant on it because I was like, man, I really like the knurling. I'm used to knurling on releases, knurling on barbells, knurling on stuff that we use at work. So the knurling just felt comfortable for me. The design they got is actually really cool, and it works really well. I feel like my thumb just kind of sits here on the release, quite a bit of bite to grab and pull that trigger. I'm not putting barely any motion onto it with my thumb, and I can get it to move. So I just have to hold on to the release and roll through my shot, and it's gonna break. I'm not worried about the barrel slipping. Stan Onnex has a knurled barrel, like I said, most releases do. They have a small barrel and a big barrel, so if you wanna run a bigger barrel, you have that option, comes in the box. I like the smaller barrel, but this bigger barrel that's on the Ultraview button is really starting to grow on me. Stan also has quite a bit of adjustment into their thumb barrel. You can move this post all the way back, forward. It's got quite a bit of adjustment to it. And like I mentioned earlier in this video, if you don't like the long post that it comes with, they also have a shorter post which will move this thumb barrel closer to the release body if you're someone who likes that feel. Now, this is where the Stan Onnex has more customization and more adjustability for the user. The Ultraview button, the thumb barrel is locked into this 90-degree position with the release body. You can't cant the barrel off or set it at a different angle. It's in a fixed location. It's the only option you have. Whereas the Stan Onnex, you can loosen the set screw here in the thumb barrel on the outside, and you have 360 degrees of travel. You can set this barrel up to whatever angle your heart desires. You can do whatever you want with it. And I actually found that pretty useful, making the release really comfortable for me. I was running it with a little bit of a pitch to it. It just felt when I got the release in my hand, because my thumb is offset to the release, that it just followed the angle of my thumb a lot better. And it just felt more natural to put my hand right up against it and pull the trigger, pull the shot through. When it comes to customization between these two companies, Stan and the Onnex line of releases has a lot more adjustability right out of the box to no more expense to the user. And I think that's a pretty big point in their category, because you have options. If you're someone who likes to tinker, you can try different thumb barrels, try different lengths, try 3-finger versus 4-finger. You have those options. Whereas the Ultraview button, you're kind of locked into what they send you. So when it comes to the actual adjustments on the thumb barrel travel and the force that it takes to travel that thumb barrel, this is where Ultraview really stands themselves apart from Stan. Ultraview actually laser etched the travel, which one of these is the travel screw, which one is the button force screw, and which way to go to either add more travel or add more tension, or take travel away or take tension away. They made it very intuitive and very easy to use. God, do I appreciate that. I don't really read the manuals, and if I do, I read it when I first get the release out of the box. I look at it and I go, oh, okay, that's the travel screw, that's the force of the barrel screw. I go outside, I shoot for a little bit, I make a few adjustments, come back inside, put the release down, go out the next day. The next day I can't remember which set screw does which adjustment. So the fact that Ultraview has it etched on the release, I think more release companies should do this. Stan Onnex, I know there's one here and there's one here, but I don't know which one does which. If I had to make an adjustment right now, I'd probably go the wrong way trying to figure it out. You have 50-50 shot. The Ultraview button just is a little bit more intuitive to adjust and to use right out of the box. So when it comes to the actual releasing and how these releases work, both of these releases work phenomenally well. They both feel really good. So Ultraview has their Ultra Glide technology that's inside of this, and it's got a lot of bushings in it. It's got a lot of rubber bumps. So that way the only metal on metal contact inside this release is actually on the parts that you need to send the release. On the hook side, on the sear and all that, that's the only metal on metal contact. I feel like a lot of the thud and the lower pitched break of this release is coming from a lot of those metal pieces bumping into the rubber bumps that are placed there on purpose. So that way you don't have metal slamming on metal inside of the release body. So the hook itself on this release floats very free. There is a magnet in the head on this release, so that way when the hook does come back down in here into battery, it stays there. It's not gonna come undone. So the only thing you need to do for your next shot is cock the mechanism, hook it on your D-loop, and you're ready to go. You don't have to tinker with getting the hook back in the right spot. Is that a big deal? Probably not. Is it a convenience thing? Absolutely. Do I like it that it has it? Yes. So both the Ultraview button and the Stan Onnex both have a D-loop string retainer, and I appreciate that on both of them. It feels really good. It shoots really well. I've had absolutely no problems. It breaks really fast, and it's just a great release. It's very consistent to shoot from shot to shot. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that Stan has some of the best breaks in the game when it comes to triggers. Their trigger is that epitome of grabbing a little glass rod and bending it until it snaps. It just has that high pitch, just that snap to it. And the trigger mechanism on this thing, man, it works, and it works really, really good. It's super crisp. The shot breaks very consistent and very clean all the time. I had absolutely no problem shooting this release, and I actually really liked shooting it. I've shot some other thumb buttons that just feel a little lethargic or a little inconsistent. The Stan is the same amount of pressure every time to send it off. It doesn't matter. The hook itself also has a way to keep it to return, and it is actually spring loaded. Now, it does feel like there is a little bit of tension on this. And does that matter when you're trying to break a shot? I don't think so. It's not a negative, it's just a different way to get the hook to return to the head of the release. But just like the Ultraview button, the Onnex, after every shot, all you need to do is cock the mechanism on the bottom and hook it back on your D-loop, and you're ready to go. So some little side things on these releases that may or may not be important to you. Ultraview, when they released the thumb button, came out with a bracket on this ring finger, so you can attach this. You can put some 550 cord through here, you can put a little webbing, and find a way to hook this up to a wrist strap so it can hang off of your wrist. But if that is important to you, the Ultraview button stock out of the box comes with one. The Stan Onnex unfortunately doesn't come with anything, and there's no bracket that you can put onto this to attach some 550 cord or some sort of webbing to make this into a release that can hang off your wrist. I guess you could put it through this little hole here that separates the release body from the third finger attachment, but if you're someone who likes to run this all the way back, that's not going to work. You could drill a hole into this third finger maybe and do it. There's nowhere else you can really hook a piece of cord or webbing material to turn this into a release that can hang onto your wrist strap. So if you're someone that is important, the Stan Onnex is probably not that release for you. But if you're just going to carry this in your pocket or into your release pouch, then yeah, it doesn't really matter. We're at the point of the video where I have to tell you which release that I am going to take into the woods with me this year and hunt with. And I think you already know, and it's going to be the Ultraview button. But the number one reason why I'm going to be taking the Ultraview button into the woods with me this year is because I shot this Hinge 2 for the entire summer since it came out all the way up until 2 weeks ago. I just have so much time with this release in my hand, and it's so many arrows through this platform that this thing just feels so comfortable in my hand. And since they came out with it, I wished and begged and pleaded that they would come out with a thumb button, and my prayers were answered, and they did. So that's why I'm shooting this thumb button. It is because I have so much time in this Hinge release. It feels so comfortable that this just being a perfect companion to it. The marriage is perfect. These releases just, the hook locations are in the exact same spot. It's built on the exact same chassis. The clasp on both of these releases exit the same way. It's just, they have really created a platform with these two releases where you can shoot this Hinge all year long. You can shoot it for target archery. You can shoot it to work on target panic. And then when it comes to hunting season, you can pull the button out and have a little bit more control over your shot. This just feels the best in my hand, and that's why I'm shooting it. I have the utmost confidence that I'm going to be able to execute with this release. And up until 2 weeks ago, the Onnex was going to be the release that I was going to carry with me. It is, in my opinion, an equal to the Ultraview button. They both live in the same category. They're both very high-end, top-dollar releases that absolutely perform and outperform most of the competition on the market. I don't think you're going to find two better thumb button releases on the market or two more expensive thumb button releases on the market, but this Onnex is just an absolute pleasure to shoot. Just for the reasons I mentioned, I just have so much more time with the Ultraview platform in my hand that I just feel more comfortable. If you guys are shooting one of these two releases this year for the season, drop a comment down below. Let me know which one you're shooting and why. And if you have any questions about these two releases that I did not answer in this video, drop a comment down below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel because we got a lot of great stuff coming up. I'm Jeff Cordero, and we'll catch you out on the next video.